So this is the last talk for this day, and the good news that you heard before, we have the party. Do you like parties? Let me try once again. Do you want the party? Okay, so Schematics is the tool that will allow you to get robots work for you, and you will have time for your parties. So few was about me, so I'm open source contributor, and originally I'm Ukrainian. I was born in Mykolaiv, but now I live in Poland for the last 2 years. And I love Angular community. It is really open and awesome. And I'm trying to give back to the community by doing some sessions for NgGirls as a mentor, to creating some projects and so on. You can follow me on Twitter, check out my blog, and so on. And about giving back to the community, we actually have this great resource called Angular in Dev. They have high quality content about deep internals of the framework, RxJS, NgRx, and all these topics. Check it out, and the interesting fact about it, it was established by Maxim Koretsky, the Google developer expert from Kiev. So check it out. And coming back to our topic, why we actually need these robots. In our history as humans, we always tried to invent something to make our life easier. Some tools, some technologies, and we're doing it over and over again because we are lazy. So robots, these tools or laptops, machines that works for us. Why we need to get them crying? So they are fast. They are fast to performing some computations and so on. They make no errors if we properly set up them. And they are okay with doing boring stuff. On the other hand, we are humans. We are creative. And that is why we still have our jobs. Because we could create some business logic that is impossible to do by machines, at least for now. And we are unpredictable. We can do it in some creative way, non-standard way, and so on. And that is why, at least for now, machine learning can't replace real developer. And the best thing, we created and controls robots, for now. Yeah. And back into Schematics. Schematics was initially a part of Angular CLI. Later on, the initiative called Angular Labs extracted this feature from CLI itself to separate module. And now it's called Angular devkit Schematics. So the interesting fact about it, it's not really specific to Angular. And just a few days ago, I created schematics for React. That sounds interesting, because to use it, they need to install something from Angular devkit. Initial version has just 2 types of components, but feel free to create issues, pull requests, feature requests, whatever you want. If you are using React, you can try it out for your project. So yeah, first of all, I want to be aligned in terminology that we are using speaking about schematics. So first one is collection. Collection is just set of schematics. So just some kind of package for schematics. Schematics itself, the interesting thing that it's the name of the project, Angular devkit Schematics, the name of the CLI tool, and also the name of generator for new schematics. Let's go on. So schematic, it's just the set of rules that we need to perform to get a source result. Under the source, I mean just file system, files, folders, and that's all. So, little bit confusing. But as usual in computer science, the naming stuff is hard. That is why. If you will get some better names, try to create an issue. Maybe we should rename something. So rule. Rule is just set of actions or some task to perform to change the file or folder and so on. And some rules already come with schematics itself. So the first one is a chain. Chain allows you to put few schematics and execute them one by one, just like chain. And all these rules is just functions. So they take source file tree, performs something, and returns new tree. So branch and merge, it's something similar to Git. So you are branching your source, do some actions, and merge it back. Template allows you to pass some options to templates. And in schematics, not only files like TS, JS files are templates, but folders itself. We will see it later. Filter allows you to filter your templates by some rules. Now, this one do nothing, and sometimes we need to optionally skip some steps. For example, we have this spec flag for schematics Angular. And if we pass in spec false, it just filters out files for tests and do nothing then. So move, it's just moving files to the source folders. Schematic, it allows you to run another schematic from the same collection, so you can do composition of them. And the good example of them is NgRx feature schematic that combines action reducer and effect creation schematics. And last one, external schematic. It allows you to use some schematic from different collection. So, what they do with your source code? So, you have this file tree, and you passing it through schematic and got the new one. And you can imagine it like a schematic as reducer, and your source tree is like state. So you pass in state to the reducer, and reducer returns a completely new state. The interesting thing is that before we actually emit any files to the file system, all actions performed in memory. So we have virtual file tree, we perform in some actions, and then emit a new tree. Why? What's the reason to do so? Because if something will fail during schematic execution, we will get no output, no wrong output. And only if everything fine, we actually got the files in our folders. So how we could create schematic? Do you have any idea what tool we can use to generate schematic? Of course, we're using schematics to generate new schematics. You need to really learn this word. Yeah, so first of all, we can install Schematics CLI. This is a tool that provides you a command line command called schematics. Yeah, so you install it globally and can use it. Then you call in schematics, passing the name of the template. By default, they provided two templates out of a box, blank one and schematic one. So in this case, you can call schematics blank, that means blank template, and call it like my schematic or something. Also, we have some collection by default with some example, with some code to get started with. So you can just type schematic, schematic, name my schematic. You can try to repeat it. Schematic, schematic, name my schematics. Yeah, name is hard. So how schematics recognize that we have some schematic in our project? We should have schematics field in our package.json to reference our collection.json file. So what is this collection.json file? It's just metadata about all your schematics in your collection. So you have the key again schematics, and you listing all available schematics. Each schematic should have factory function to return rule. You can add aliases, you can specify schema and add description. And the cool thing, that schematics out of the box checking the types for your schema and validate them, emits errors if some input is wrong, and so on. So how this rule factory function looks like? So it just functions that accepts options and returns you function that operates with our file tree. And optionally we can use context. Context is a helpful object that has some login, some helpers for you. So we can, in this example, perform write something to the console, like we created. Schematic. Schema.json. File to specify all arguments for your schematic. You can add type, is it required or not, description, aliases, all this stuff, and schematics will validate it. Test. Our code usually perfect, of course. But just to be sure, we need to test it somehow. And schematics give us some helpers to write unit tests for schematics. They have this test runner, you call in the name of your schematic, pass an object for options, and some file tree. And it looks like usual unit test with Jasmine or something. Also, you can run it locally inside the folder of your project. So you can call schematics dot, that means that run schematics right there in this folder, and call the name of schematic. Also, you should remember that by default, schematic CLI enables for local runs debug flag. And that means that it will perform just dry run without any files in your file system. It will just list the possible files, their names, paths in your console. So to skip it, you need to set flag debug to false, and that's it. You can run it inside your Angular project if you're creating schematics for Angular. And to do this, you just, as usual, call in ng generate, then your schematics collection name, and then the name of your schematic. And before doing any schematic run, just best practice to commit everything, to just have easy revert back if something going wrong. So that's all about theory, but to really understand something, we need to do something. So let's try to create our first schematic. Yeah, we will perform live coding. Okay. Mirror it. So yeah, I installed schematics CLI and already ran this command. Schematics, blank template, and the name NgTalks. And it generated files for me, package.json, collection.json, and so on. So I did it beforehand, not to have problems with Wi-Fi, because after creation of schematic, it runs npm install and all this stuff. So just not to rely on Wi-Fi connection. So what we have in our package JSON? As I said before, we have this special key called Schematics that has passed to our collection JSON file. Also, they set up TypeScript build for us, test runner, and few dependencies. Devkit core, schematics, node, just mean TypeScript. That's it. Okay, so what we will get in our source folder? Collection JSON, main file. So we have the schematics and NgTalks 1. So we should take, rename it like hello. So it's will be hello schematic, pass to our factory function. Let me rename it. Okay. So we can add alias for it. Let it be H. Okay, we have description, alias, and pass to the factory function. That's it. So we have this folder called also NgTalks. We can also rename it to hello. Hello. And here as well. Okay. So yeah, here we have two files. Index.ts that has boilerplate for our schematic factory and boilerplate for unit test. So let's start with our schematic factory function. So we don't really use any options, so we can just skip it for now. And just to be sure, I prepared, of course, cheat sheet. So, okay. So, from our factory function, we return rule. Rule is another function that accepts tree. It's our file system tree in memory and optional context. So we have all types for us, after completion, and all this stuff. So yeah, then we call in tree.create. That means that we want to create new file. And this file will called hide.ts. And for content, we just write hello NgTalks. Also, just for example, I added context logger, so we will receive message in our console. So let's save it and build it. So here, build. Oh, I'm in wrong folder. Yeah. It just runs TS compiler and emits all these JavaScript files. We need JavaScript files because we're running as Node.js module, so we need to compile it back to ECMAScript. And let's run it. So we have again this command, schematics, and we want to run it locally with this dot means that we're running it inside this project. And our schematic name, hello. And it should be it. No. Okay, name of the function, yeah. Okay, let's build it again. And run. Okay, we have this message, log message. We created our first schematic. And we don't have any files right now. Let's fix it. So this flag, debug, set to false. The output in console the same, but now we have our file. Hello. Yeah, that was good. But let's go deeper. Let's create some argument to specify the message we want to use. So, first of all, we go into our collection JSON and we add new key called schema. Yeah, and we have all this after completion because we have a schema JSON file for schematics provided by devkit. So let's do it again, schema, and it should be passed to our schema JSON file. Hello, schema.json. Okay. Now we need to create this file. So let's do it. Schema.json. Okay. So again, I will use my cheat sheet. So what we have here? We specify the schema, the ID, so it's schematics arc tutor, some title for it, this object, and we have properties field. So our properties, we want to have only one. The type of it should be string, and it should be called message, and it is required one. Okay, next, to use our schema JSON types in TypeScript, in factory function, we need to create interface for it. So we create a file, schema.ts, okay, and just export interface called schema, and it should has required field message of type of string. Okay, let's save it. After that, we can import our schema interface. So import schema as hello options from schema.ts file. Okay. Now we can use this options argument for our factory function. So options and the type of this option, hello options. What we need to do next? We can get this property from our options and add it there to the content of newly created file. Okay, let's use ES6 stuff, and here we should put options.message. Okay, it's the TypeScript file, so let's do console.log. Okay. Something like this. Now let's build it again. And we will try to run it again. Okay, we got an error. And the reason for that, as I said before, schematics validating all arguments from our schema.json file. And previously I said that message parameter is required. That is why we got just error. So let's fix it. So let's specify message for it. NgTalks and debug false to have a file. And schematic failed again, because the file is already there. If we want not to create file but to write it, we should use separate rule for it. So yeah, let's remove this one and run again. Okay, we got it. And here we go. We have NgTalks again. So yeah, we are going out of time. So I need to switch, come back to slides. So yeah, it was pretty short demo just to get ideas. And schematics are not hard, and it's easier to create your own and use it for any type of code base you want. Whatever you want, React, JavaScript, Java, maybe, .NET, whatever you want. So we created our first robots. Dummy one, but we tried. Also, I want to get credits. All graphics I used, and the name of this talk is Robots Don't Cry. Actually, it's my favorite rock band from Kyiv. So I used these robots from the album covers. So, thank you very much. And have time for your parties. Let's robot work.